Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything coming at you with another Wargaming and Miniature video. In this video, we're going to go ahead and continue on with our 148 tactic painting. And today we're going to be painting Dean Stanton. He's part of the 101st in the game. He's part of the base set in your starter army. I probably should be painting these with a green 1943 jumpsuit color, but I've decided that I'm not going to do that. I'm painting my Americans with the green brown because the green brown was used in D-Day, not during the Ardennes, which these scenarios are designed for. But I just think that the green-brown makes the models look more like American paratroopers. It's just more iconic. It's what you grow to expect from a 101st World War II paratrooper. Even if it's not exactly historically correct. You can use these models in D-Day scenarios, and then they would fit just perfectly with this paint scheme. Now, as I'm painting the jumpsuit, it's okay if I get it on the straps, the belts, collar, well, the collars, of course, but I mean any gear or anything like that, it's okay because I haven't painted that yet. Now, I have painted the flesh already. I've painted the flesh on all my models. Germans alike. Okay, so we're going for the Vallejo green-brown. That's what we're using right now. I think I've got everything. Let's double check his collar. His cuffs, boots, pants. Yep, looks like everything on Dean is done. We're going to go ahead and set him off to the side to dry before we move on to the next color. All right, the next color we're going to do on this model is the olive drab on the helmet, and I'm using the Tamiya olive because it's the right color. It's nice and dark green, but also because it's got a little bit of water. It's a little runny, so it acts like almost like a wash, and you can see that the khaki webbing will start to shine through. All right, we'll set him off to the side and let him dry for a minute before I move on to the next color. All right, so the next color we put on this model will be what we call red leather. It's for the jump boots. Cochrane jump boots today are black, but in World War II they were brown. And they were kind of a reddish brown. So red brown or red leather will work just fine. You have to find where the boot ends and the pants that are tucked into the boot end, where they meet, so that you can paint the right thing, the right color. All right, set that off to the side, let that dry before we move on to the next color. All right, now on Dean Stanton, we're going to use this Panzerraces Field Gray, which is actually kind of just a gray-green, and we're going to put it on his knee pads. and his elbows. Okay, so we got it on his elbows, got it on his knees. Now we're going to let Dean dry a little bit before we move on to the next color. All right, now the next color we paint onto Dean here will be the khaki straps. He's going to have a khaki sling. He's going to have a khaki ammo pouches. Entrenching tool cover needs to be khaki. Now I primed khaki, so the khaki I'm painting is the model color from Vallejo, and it's almost exactly the same color as the Rust-Oleum camo khaki that I put on here as the primer. But there is a little bit of a difference, so I am covering the primer because I want it to be all universal, correctly the right color. Okay, it looks like he's got ammo pouches under here. They need to be khaki. And then it looks like he's got the shoulder straps from the musette bag. They need to be khaki as well. Now the musette bag isn't it's a bag that straps over your shoulder, but it hooks onto your LBE straps. Yeah. Okay, so we got the straps. Got his entrenching tool. Let's reach up under there and get some ammo pouches, it looks like. Yeah, he looks really good. Okay, we're going to set that down and let him dry. All right, now Dean Stanton is carrying a M1. So we're just going to paint the entire M1, top and bottom. It doesn't matter, because I'm going to come back over with black and metal, and we're going to fix the M1. Okay, and also the entrenching tool handle is made of wood. All right, so we're going to let that sit and dry before we move on to the next color. All right, now we pull up Dean. He's carrying an M1, so we need to make sure that the receiver sight and the barrel is all black. I use licorice because of the way it dries flat. And that's all. That black is going to have a metallic on top of it. And then I also want to paint the 101st patch. I got to find it. There it is. And we want to paint the 101st patch black. All right, so I'm going to let the black dry before we move on to the metallics. All right, now Dean has an M1, and we're going to apply natural steel to all those areas that I painted white. White? What am I saying? Black, where I put the licorice. Because black really makes the steel stand out. let that sit and dry for a minute before we're done. Didn't really give you a view, but yeah, there's some metallics. All right, we're going to let that dry. All right, now Dean Stanton has a boot knife, so we're going to use the German camo black-brown, and we're going to paint the sheath and the handle. Just like that. All right, we're going to let that dry for a moment. All right, now the next step on this model is to use the wash. I'm using light tone. It's not been thinned down, it's full strength. So we're going to cover the entire model with this. Helmet, boots, pants, musette bag, rifle, trenching tool, everything. Try not to put too much in any one spot. There we go. Now we're going to let that dry. We're going to see how that comes out. All right, now the next color on Dean here is we're going to highlight the washed jumpsuit using the original jumpsuit color, the green-brown. We're going back over it, and we're going to touch up any of the raised areas, pockets, collars, that kind of stuff. If you see folds in fabric, we're going to hit those up. Jacket pockets. The jacket itself. Now I noticed his jacket's got some folds on the backside, so we're going to just hit the raised areas. Not going to get down into the low area of these folds because we want the wash to still have an effect. We're not trying to cover the wash, we're trying to enhance it. So anywhere that the wash, well, any of the raised areas are going to have the original color put back on them. Because the wash probably made it look too brown. Now on his chest, you're going to see like slanted pockets. Fold where the uniform buckles. Should have an epaulette on both sides. Back side of the collar. Jacket. Sleeves. Pants. Okay, I didn't look at this. Behind his knees. Yeah, that needed to be touched. There we go. So he looks good. We're going to set him off to the side, let him dry. All right, now what we're going to be doing here is we're highlighting his gear, his pack and his e-tool and things like that. So we're going to use Khaki, the original color, and we're going left and right of the e-tool and right down the center and then the top. There you go. And then his canteen's the same thing. Left, right, center. He's got some ammo pouches. I'm going to hit those individually. Okay, now his musette bag is the next big one. Paint underneath between the straps. Underneath on both sides. There we go. Now sides, but not all the way up to the flap. Then we paint the flap. We just go to between the straps, left and right where it's nice and tight, and then paint with the fabric. There we go. That looks good. And then we take a look at if there's any straps, which I know there is. The musette bag's got one. I'm not sure if you're familiar with 1942 jump equipment or whatever, but the musette bag hooked onto the LBE, or the load-bearing equipment strap, that would normally hold up his pistol belt. So it didn't have like shoulder straps. It had straps that hooked on to your LBE, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. All right, he's all good to go. We'll set him off to the side and let him dry a little bit. All right, the next step on this model is the edge of the base. And what we're going to do is we're going to use U.S. Army green. It's a good neutral green color. And not only are we doing the edge of the base, but we're going to do a little bit of the top of the base just to make sure that there's no khaki when I do my flocking. Okay, kind of like so. All right, and we're going to let that sit, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're going to start texturing the base. Before I do that, I'm going to take some white glue, some Elmer's glue. I'm going to apply it to my palette, right? And then I'm going to use my tester's brush to apply the glue to the base, because I don't want to pour the glue directly to the base. I don't want to have too much glue. I don't want to have too little glue. So by using this brush on method, I can make exactly the right amount of glue for the base. And I'll get it in all the right spots, because I can use the bristles of the brush to make sure I get it under his boots or anything like that. Okay, now I want to see a little bit of a white film from my PVA over this entire model. That way I know that there's glue everywhere that I want there to be glue. Perfect. Now we take some stones and we sprinkle stones on here, maybe just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. Whatever just looks good or feels good, just put some stones on the base. Then go to the talus and cover every other piece with talus. And then we set that off. We're going to let that dry for probably about 30 minutes. Then we'll come back with the next layer. All right, now we're going to apply some flock. I used the Battlefield Grass Green from Army Painter. I really like that flock. It's not a foam-based flock. It's more of a sawdust flock. Now I put some PVA in my palette, and I'm using my brush to paint on, not even paint on, just apply glue to the base, being sure not to cover any of the stones. So I'm painting in between the stones or around the base. You want to get about a 2/3 coating, and you want it to look kind of like a camouflage pattern. You want it to be randomized. No rhyme or reason. There doesn't have to be any rhyme or reason. All right, and then what we do is we just sprinkle some flock over the entire base. We let that mound up so that it'll soak into the glue. We set that off to the side for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. And this one is Dean Stanton. They call him a semi-automatic rifleman. Old Dean Stanton. All right, guys, this is my 7 148 Tactic Americans. Tell me what you thought about the painting of each individual one, and come back and check out when I do the Germans. I'm going to do the Germans individually as well. All right, and I'll see you in the next one.